eyebrow wiggle. Excuse me for that. Hey, what's up you guys? Welcome back to Mondays on my channel, which are as always the only day on my channel, because that's how we roll. We lazy here. Today is going to be a little bit different. One, because I'm filming on my phone, because my camera finally died. Yay. And two, it's going to be a little different because I'm going to be a little bit more real and just talking about, it's kind of like a story time today, but it's also like I want to drop out some advice for people. And it's a little bit out of my comfort zone. Like I almost didn't do it today because one, I'm afraid to talk about church, mostly for the viewer's sake. Like I don't want to upset people, which it seems, especially if you go on Facebook, it seems like churchy things upset people. This isn't going to be like about politics or anything like that, so don't think that way. But also, I just feel nervous to talk about things that are important to me because I don't know. But my husband made a really good point today and said sometimes it's more important to be yourself than it is to please people. So I'm going to try and be real. This is not going to be a normal thing at all. Okay, so this all kind of started, I have to give you a backstory. Last night I walked into the room, I don't know what I was doing, probably reading or something, and my husband was watching a YouTube video. He got halfway through it, so keep that in mind. And I found it really offensive from the second half on, not having seen the first part. I didn't even know I missed most of it. I didn't know, so I'm not being hypocritical or anything. I just, So I got really offended, and it was a video called When Good Christian Kids Go Bad. And I got offended because that was me. What they showed was me, what am I, 23 now? So 9 years ago, that was me. And 9 years ago, whoa, that's crazy to think about. And so at first they were making comments oh, these kids like to dye their hair or talk about their opinion on politics, and I don't care. And I got offended because that's not how you should be acting in a youth group or any kind of a church setting. You shouldn't say you don't care. But then, so I went back today because I just wanted to make sure I remembered the points that bothered me. And let me also disclose, I'm not a gossip channel. I'm not a ranting channel. I just, this whole, even originally, this was to give advice and to just share my story with this. And let me also disclose, this channel, I'm not going to tell you their name because I don't want to seem like a gossip channel. I love watching their stuff. Their whole point is it's a channel for Christians to laugh at the silly things Christians... We'll wait for him to finish. Okay. So their whole point is to be a place for Christians to laugh at the silly things Christians do. It's a place to laugh at yourself. And I know that. And I also only watched half of this video. So once I watched the whole thing, I realized what they were saying. So not just Christian kids who go bad, but the really sheltered Christian kids that they grew up not being allowed to watch SpongeBob, not being allowed to watch Harry Potter, which I wasn't allowed to watch Harry Potter, but I was allowed to watch SpongeBob. Thanks for that, Dad. And so those kids, those very sheltered kids, when they try to rebel, it comes out funny because they don't know exactly how to rebel. That was the point they were trying to make. And I like that. I think it's funny. Now that I've watched the whole thing, I'll admit, I messed up. I just didn't know I missed so much of the beginning. It's funny. I get it. But I did, I was the rebellious kid in youth group, and it was kind of different. I didn't grow up too sheltered. I was public schooled. And also the thing with this channel is all of these guys are homeschool kids, and so they all grew up together. They had a really tight-knit circle, which is just harder when you're in public school because people switch schools, people move on to different types of friends, which I'm sure is possible in homeschooling. I'm not being totally it's this way. No, but just hear me out. When you're homeschooled, I think it's a little bit easier because you have your siblings there. You're all raised with the same morals. You're all raised with the same beliefs. So you have that accountability, that person to talk to, that understands more so the way you think. I believe, whereas when you go to public school, it's totally diverse, which isn't bad either. Neither of these are bad, but they just kind of both present their own pros and cons. And so being a public schooler in youth group, it was a little bit harder to totally be completely 100% in who I was because, I went to church and those people were Christians and that was great, but that was once a week when I had youth group, whereas I went to school every day and most of my friends didn't go to church, weren't necessarily Christians, but I still loved being around them, and we had a lot of the same music and TV and reading interests. We had stuff to talk about. So, I think both are good. I think it's different kinds of good. Like, it was probably really good for me that I grew up in that diverse situation because it helped me understand the world. But, I also kind of envy that I don't really have those close-knit relationships that I think I would if I had been homeschooled, I don't know. But when I was watching their video, it brought back a lot of memories of just feeling unimportant. And so I'll kind of talk about that a little bit. So when I was in youth group, I loved it when I first started. 7th grade, I was so excited. I felt so cool. I was finally like with the older kids and not in Sunday school anymore. And I was so excited. And I really liked it. But there was always this essence in me that I felt like I wasn't necessarily good enough for people. And I think a lot of that came from, my parents were hit really hard by the economy. And, that's neither here nor there. But we just didn't have as much money as some people that didn't get hit as hard. And so I couldn't afford the exact nice clothes a lot of them had. Also, I was just kind of obnoxious growing up. I've talked about that before. I could be really loud. And, for someone that wasn't homeschooled, I didn't always know how to handle a social situation. So, know that, homeschool parents. Even public school kids can be awkward in public. And so, I definitely had a lot of insecurities about what people thought of me, about who I was, and I didn't know I was good enough. And, that's nobody's fault. Everybody has insecurities. And nobody caused those. Well, as I grew up, I started to get friends that were very into, the goth and punk style, and so I learned a lot of new music, and a lot of these people were in my public school, not necessarily at church. And so I started to learn about a lot of new music, and I really liked it. I still like some of that stuff. And I can remember the day that I discovered Under Oath, and I was like, whoa, this is so cool. It also had to do with a guy. There was also a guy. So he really liked Him, which is like a band or a guy or something, I don't know. And so I would watch MTV every morning so I could see the music videos, and I could watch the Him music video, and I could be like, okay, I know this much more about it. So a lot of the punk goth stuff kind of started from that too, but I learned to like it on my own. It wasn't all just for a guy. Eventually, I was like, I don't like him anymore. And that was more 6th grade, but 7th grade, yeah. So anyway, so I started to find this style that I really liked, which was more dark, wore a lot of eyeliner, I was very pale, I had black hair that went over my eye like this, and a lot of people made fun of me. So basically, I found this style that I liked, and I felt like I could express myself through it. And I got teased a little bit. Everyone always said I was dark. Everyone always said I was weird. And, I know people don't mean to hurt your feelings a lot of the times when they say stuff like that, but it did. And, I could tell people thought I was different and strange, and, that made it hard to want to be there. And that, in a way, kind of defeats the purpose of youth group. And this was not always the case. I actually switched to youth group and felt really at home at one. And, then I actually became a leader at another one when I was older. And, so it's it wasn't my whole experience, but it was part of it where I just kind of felt like I wasn't good enough for part of it. And so just the point that I want to make is if you're in youth group and you are lucky enough that, your parents can afford to buy you whatever you want, clothes-wise. If you're fortunate enough that, you haven't been hit hard by something in life, that's really, really great. But also have an understanding that if there is someone in your youth group, or even, if you're not a Christian, even just at school, that they do something different than you don't know what they're going through or what they've been through. Something that's really important to me to say is everybody has a story, and everyone has a way that story was written, and we have to honor that and respect that. Especially, nowadays when it's so easy. I'm so glad I'm not in youth group now, in the sense that I think it's just a lot harder to be who you are now because it's so easy to get attacked for what you have to say. I'm scared to post this, I'll be honest. But we just have to be loving to each other and be willing to listen to this person. If they completely switched political sides, you can't really be political when you're 14. You can, but you can't vote or do anything about it. Just listen to why this person has come up with that. And there is a chance maybe it's because they're rebelling against their parents, but also, you know, people just see the world differently as they get older. You know, like back when I was Gothic, I still like had more conservative beliefs, and now I kind of waver in weird spots because I don't understand politics. I got an A in poli-sci. Like, I'm good with politics, but I still don't understand it enough to like believe in something for sure. So that makes it hard. But just be willing to listen to people. I think the fastest way to someone's heart, honestly, like I know most days I'll say it's Taco Bell, but really it's just listening and understanding that person. Don't judge them because they're wearing stuff only from Hot Topic. Maybe they're just going through something and they need to get it off their chest somehow and they don't know how, so they're doing it through the way they dress. Or maybe they just like black. That is okay to just like black. That being said though, if you are the weird youth kid, don't immediately write off the other youth kids because they dress more clean cut and more pop preppy. They dress more pop preppy. Don't write them off either, because chances are, you know, they've experienced life too, and they just don't express it the same way. So don't write anybody off. Just be willing to listen to somebody's story. Be willing to understand that people are all from all different walks of life. Just be willing to listen. I think that's the best thing that anyone can do for anybody. All right, you guys, well, that's all that I really have to say about that. Just be kind to each other. Like, it's hard right now. Social media has really made it hard. And, you know, frankly, like, even now in my life, I'm 23, and I still feel unimportant sometimes. Like, when I see one of my old high school best friends getting married, and I'm not invited to their wedding, like, I want to be happy for them, but it also kind of stinks that I'm just forgotten. Or, you know, when certain events happen with people that I think are my friends and I'm not asked to go, or, you know, nobody, like, or like probably the worst one lately is like you ask, it takes a lot of my courage to ask people to hang out with me. And it's not because I don't want to, but I don't like being rejected. And they say something like, oh, I'm busy tonight. And then the next day they post a meme and it's somebody laying in a bed watching Netflix and it says what I'm actually doing when I tell my friends I'm busy. Like, that hurts. And it makes me feel unwanted and unimportant sometimes. Just remember that you are important and you are cared about by somebody in the world, even though it doesn't feel like it sometimes. Like I said, I'm 23 and I still struggle with that, but I'm working through it. And one of those things I've actually been doing to work through it is reading a lot. So I've decided that I'm going to start doing a book of the week based on books that I've read. Like, I've been reading like crazy. I've probably finished like 4 books in the past week, just going to the library, which I've actually really been enjoying. It's been helping me escape a lot, and it's been helping those sad feelings that I've been having. So the book of the week this week is A Stolen Life by J.C. Dugard. Let me just say, if you are younger than 18 and you have a hard time with this kind of stuff, I wouldn't recommend it. But if you feel that you can stomach it, I love it. I love how honest she was about the situation. I love how she's really come through and come past it. I just think it's really awesome. So I really recommend it if you are of age and you can handle that sort of a thing. It's a very sensitive subject, so not everyone might want to read that. And I'll have a different book for you guys next week. All right, that's all I have for today. So don't you forget to stay classy, and I'll see you later. Hoo-ah!